The conditions of his release are being finalized right now, and it's unclear whether or not Stevens will have to comply with the previous order that he was arrested under. That's the one that didn't apply to him in the first place. That's the bad news. The good news is Tim Stevens is going home to his family where he belongs. Will he be back on the pulpit next Sunday, risking jail time to preach the word of God? I guess that remains to be seen. We've got breaking good news. Pastor Tim Stevens is being released from jail this afternoon on bail as soon as his paperwork is filed. Now, Pastor Tim Stevens is the pastor at Fairview Baptist Church in Calgary, Alberta, and he has been holding church services that are non-compliant with the current public health restrictions here in Alberta, and those restrictions change all the time. Right now, the restrictions limit places of worship to just 15 people, no matter the capacity. Tim Stevens has been ticketed in the past, and he's been under constant police and Alberta Health Services surveillance. And those bureaucrats and law enforcement officers have interrupted church services at Fairview Baptist. And that's in contravention of Section 176.2 of the Criminal Code of Canada that prohibits the interruption of religious services by anyone for any reason. Stevens was arrested this past Sunday in front of his wife and small children after church services. Rebel News had a video journalist, Kian Simone, on location when the arrest happened. Just take a look.
That's different. Injustice! Injustice!
Tim Stevens is currently being represented by the Justice Centre for Constitutional Freedoms, and his lawyer James Kitchen told me last night that he thinks the arrest of Tim Stevens was illegal, and here's why. On May 6th, Alberta Health Services went to court and received a secret court order against Chris Scott of the Whistle Stop Cafe, Glenn Carrott of United We Roll, and unnamed Jane and John Doe. So that's all Albertans that aren't named, prohibiting us from protesting, organizing a protest, or promoting a protest, what the government calls illegal public gatherings of more than 5 people outside. It's crazy. 4.4 million innocent people were restrained from exercising their charter rights to disagree with the government, and it was all done in secret. Chris Scott's lawyer, Chad Williamson, who's being paid for through Rebel News' largest civil liberties project to date, FightTheFines.com, went to court last Thursday and argued that order should be overturned because it was improperly obtained without notice given to Williamson in advance. Justice Centre for Constitutional Freedoms lawyers went into court on the same day and said that the order needed to be amended to only include people who are named in it and not all the other innocent people in Alberta who were just minding their own business before their own government decided to make the punishment for having 6 people over at your house in your backyard contempt of court and thus jail time. Now, Williamson was not successful in his arguments, but he will get a full hearing where he will get to examine Chief Medical Officer of Health Dina Hinshaw on her affidavit that argued for the necessity of that order that limited all Albertans' free speech. But Justice Centre for Constitutional Freedoms lawyers were successful in their arguments. This means that Stevens was arrested on a May 6th order that was amended to specifically not include him 2 days prior to his arrest. And today, Justice Centre for Constitutional Freedoms lawyer Leighton Gray, now you might remember that name from the Pastor James Coates trial 2 weeks ago, argued in Court of Queen's Bench in Calgary in front of Justice Adam Germain for the release of Pastor Tim Stevens. And Leighton Gray was indeed successful. The conditions of his release are being finalized right now, and it's unclear whether or not Stevens will have to comply with the previous order that he was arrested under. That's the one that didn't apply to him in the first place. That's the bad news. The good news is Tim Stevens is going home to his family where he belongs. Will he be back on the pulpit next Sunday, risking jail time to preach the word of God? I guess that remains to be seen. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. Tim Stevens was not the only pastor arrested under that restraining order on the rights of all Albertans. Pastor Art Pawlowski was also arrested, and we're working to help him through our largest civil liberties project to date, Fight the Fines. If you'd like to help us help Pastor Art by covering his legal fees, please donate today at saveartur.com. That's ARTUR, the Polish spelling, saveartur.com.